In today's Valheim Mod Spotlight video, we'll be taking a look at several mods that are useful for managing the land. This includes mods that assist with farming, as well as ones that make altering the terrain much easier to manage. All the links can be found in the description, and I'll be featuring key highlights in each introduction during the video. Planting Plus, a mod by BKIs93, expands upon the basic selection of crops you can plant in Valheim. Now you can plant berry bushes, including raspberries, blueberries, claryberries, thistles, dandelions, red mushrooms, glowing yellow mushrooms, and even blue mushrooms, currently an unused asset in Valheim. The mod even adds ability to collect seeds from trees that don't normally drop them, such as birch, oak, and ancient trees. Overall, if you're the kind of player that would rather manage a farm than go on a long scavenger hunt for your supplies, Planting Plus now makes this an option. The mod also comes with a config file, so you can tweak it before launching the game. This allows you to change a whole variety of settings, such as how many berry bushes each berry bush will drop, how long each crop takes to respawn, how large planted trees can grow, and more. So it's well worth delving in and tweaking the mod to your liking. Personally, I've reduced the amount of time it takes for crops to respawn, but I've kept the costly number of resources it takes to plant each crop, as well as the low yields to try and balance it out. So how does Planting Plus work? Well, unfortunately you'll still need to venture out into the Black Forest, or worse. And grab as many plants as you can. Each crop takes a number of other crops to craft the spawner. As you can see here, each berry bush requires 10 berries. So, once you've collected a bulk of goodies and tilled the land, it's now time to plant them. Simply equip the cultivator, right click to open the menu and select the crop you want to plant. One thing to bear in mind is new crops added by Planting Plus don't require excess space around them like carrots and turnips do, so there's no repercussions if you want to squeeze berry bushes together in neat rows, just like this. This doesn't include trees though, as they still need the extra room. Another thing worth pointing out is thistles and mushrooms have empty spawner models, so it will appear that the mushroom has been removed when you harvest them. The author of this mod has responded to this issue on the Nexus mod's comments, stating that they may look into adding models for the spawners once they've been harvested. To get around this small issue, I'd recommend planting in cordoned off sections, and maybe even going so far as to add a sign just so it doesn't get confusing. Finally, there's the new trees which work almost identically to the ones in vanilla Valheim. Simply collect the seeds when cutting down birch, oak or ancient trees and plant them in an open space. After a period of time, the saplings will grow into a fully sized tree, ready to be chopped down all over again. FarmGrid, a mod by Sarcen, is a super helpful mod for those who like to keep things neat and tidy, and even more for those who hate to waste resources. Essentially, the main purpose of FarmGrid is to alleviate the troubles of Valheim's farming space requirements. For those who farm carrots and turnips without the mod installed, you'll already know how awkward it can be to make sure you leave enough room between each crop for them to grow. Thankfully, FarmGrid provides a highlighted grid after placing your first crop, and as long as you aim closely, the grid will lock the second crop to a certain distance from the first. This is so you can choose which way you want your grid's rotation to be positioned. Now, when we place the second crop, all of the following crops that are planted in the vicinity are locked into the grid. You cannot plant two crops in the same space, and the mod also takes your buildings into account so crops won't clip fully inside of your structures. The great thing about FarmGrid is it works wonderfully with Planting Plus. Simply run the game once to generate a config file, then copy the Planting Plus presets into the variable spaces below, as seen here. Now we can use FarmGrid to plant our berry bushes and mushrooms in an evenly distributed grid, just like we can with carrots and turnips. It even works on trees, although the grid is vastly expanded to compensate for the tree's higher space requirements. It's worth noting that FarmGrid can be disabled by holding down the Shift key whilst positioning the crops. For plants that don't require space around them, this will allow you to plant them in a more compacted way. Crop Replant, a mod by Dowson, is a nifty little mod that helps speed up the farming process. It works in tandem with FarmGrid by allowing you to harvest and replant your crops in a small grid around the player. Before we do anything, we need to make sure that we have the seeds that we want to plant in our inventory. These don't have to be the same seeds as the crops we're harvesting, so if we want, we can plant turnip seeds when we harvest carrots. So to use the mod, we first need to equip the cultivator and choose which seeds we want to plant. Once selected, we aim our crosshair at the crops we want to replant and hit the hotkey, which is H by default. The crops will be harvested and the seeds we've chosen will be replanted exactly in their place, so long as we have the seeds in our inventory. We can proceed to harvest and replant all of our crops using this method, meaning we don't have to reposition our crops and place them one by one using FarmGrid. Some of you may notice that the H key is a little awkward to press whilst moving with the WSD keys. Fortunately though, the mod generates a config file after running the game once, and you can change the hotkey to a more easily reachable key, as well as adjusting the area of effect if you want to replace more crops at once. Fast Tools, a mod by Crystal, restores tools to a quicker and more useful speed. Irongate, the developers of Valheim, released a patch which reduced the speed that tools could be used at. This made flattening and tilling the land a much slower and irritating process, as previously you could use the tools as fast as you could click the mouse button. Fast Tools attempts to negate this change by reducing the amount of delay between each tool use for the hammer, hoe and cultivator. A config file is generated after running the game once, allowing you to modify delays further, though I do find the default settings work pretty well for me. If you're enjoying the video, please leave a like and comment below letting me know what mods you'd like me to cover next. VeinMine, a mod by WiseHorror, takes the chore out of mining. I would consider this mod cheating, however, after playing the game for quite a long time, I feel I can recommend it to anyone who wishes to simplify the grindier elements of Valheim. In the game, large rocks are mined one piece at a time, and VeinMine allows you to hold down a hotkey and mine the whole rock at once, saving you plenty of time. To balance this, the mod removes all the durability the pickaxe would have lost had you have mined the rock manually, piece by piece, and it also reduces the amount of mining experience that you receive. To use the mod, simply hold down the hotkey, which is left alt by default, and mine away at the rock. After a few hits, the entire rock will explode and stone will drop everywhere. You'll probably even find that you receive a lag spike when this happens, but don't panic. I highly recommend that you bring a wagon with you as well to easily collect all the stone and ore, as there will be a lot. This mod generates a config file after running the game once, with plenty of options to tweak to your liking. The developer has even created a progressive mode, allowing you to scale the effectiveness of VeinMine to your mining skill level. The lower your level, the smaller the area of effect and experience gain, and the greater the durability lost. Better Wagon, a mod by urgemeuwu, makes carrying all of the stone that you've mined with VeinMine back to your base a much more straightforward process. Simply put, the higher your running skill, the easier it is to pull a heavy wagon. This makes pulling wagons uphill a slightly less grueling task than it normally would be. The wagon still has weight and still puts up a fight, but Better Wagon makes it more manageable. So hopefully when you're wandering home at night with a wagon full of scrap ore, you might just be able to get away from whatever's chasing you. So that's all for this episode of the Valheim Mod Spotlight. I hope you found this video helpful, and for more videos on Valheim mods, make sure to subscribe.